Kia ora. My name's David Small and I'm the lecturer for this course that we're about to start, EDEM641, Educational Leadership and the Law in New Zealand. And I thought I would just give this little introductory talk to you about who I am, what the course is about, who it's for, and a few little things about how it'll be organised. It's not a full-on introduction into exactly what we're going through. We're kicking off the course next week, and I'll go into a proper introduction then, but this is just to sort of let you know here I am, and this is what essentially who I am and what the course is about. So I'm a senior lecturer in education at the University of Canterbury. It's a position I've held for about 20 years. I've never been a classroom teacher. The organisation of educational studies departments and colleges of education and so on in New Zealand used to be that there were separate colleges of education that grew out of teachers' colleges, and there were universities, and my origins was in the university side of that, so I've kind of joined this MEd that this is part of this course is part of, and sort of as part of that merger. But that's the side I come from. My interests prior to moving into this field were primarily in the politics and sociology of education. Independently of that, I've also been active in a wide range of what might be called social justice groups over a long period of time. And I thought I'd mention these because, in a sense, these have sort of been my entree into the area of law. My activities have brought me into contact with the law and the legal system in various ways, from the kind of, I suppose, straight up and down situations of arrests in the context of demonstrations and protests and defending myself, through to an application I made some years ago for a firearms license, which was, you make an application to the police. It was turned down by the police, and I had to appeal this to the district court. At the time, my firearms license was turned down because I was married at the time to a Kanak activist from New Caledonia, and the French government was concerned about their safety, about what might happen if I and my wife got access to a firearm. So I had a courtroom battle there as well, which I won. I sort of got a bit of a taste for these things, and it makes it a bit easier. When you win the battles, you want to go back for more. These were all what you might call legally defensive actions. That is, I didn't actively initiate it. I was going about my business, and the law came in search of me, as it were. The first sort of legally offensive action that I was engaged in was in the year 2000. I sued the police for unlawfully searching my home. This was in the wake of an incident where I caught two people who turned out to be SIS agents breaking into the home of a friend of mine at the time of the APEC Trade Ministers meeting and associated protests in Christchurch in 1996. So I had 3 days in the High Court in Christchurch and successfully sued the police for breaching my right to be free from unreasonable search, guaranteed under the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act. And after that, I thought I had a bit of a taste for this, so I thought I would start some legal studies. So over the period of about 6 years, I worked my way through to doing a law degree, just out of interest more than anything else. And then after that, I thought I would do my professionals, and as a result of that, I was admitted to the bar. So for the last 4 years, I've had a practicing certificate as a barrister. So I'm now legally allowed to call myself a lawyer. It's only people who have a practicing certificate who are allowed to say that. Anybody else who says it, it's a criminal offence. So since then, I've been working as a volunteer lawyer at the Community Law Centre in Christchurch, and taken a range of cases, primarily in the area of criminal law and employment law. This year, Oh, I suppose the other thing is that my research interest in law has been mostly, up until now, following my kind of social justice interests. I've been working on legal research around the area of international law and human rights law, and in 2011 I won a Fulbright scholarship to go and spend 6 months at Georgetown University in Washington DC, studying the impact of the war on terror on low-risk states like New Zealand. So this year, sort of by way of this course, I'm formally sort of merging my legal interests and my educational interests that have previously been quite separate. So the result of that is this course that I'm offering now for the first time. So what is this course? This course is about education law. And education law is a curious sort of creature. There are various branches of law that lawyers and legal researchers tend to specialize in. I've already mentioned two of those. There's, my sound bubbles are going off here. I've already mentioned a couple of these: criminal law and employment law. In employment law, for example, there's a whole body of law and even a dedicated branch of the legal system that is devoted to employment matters. So if there's a legal dispute relating to employment, it's heard through the Employment Relations Authority, then further up through the Employment Court, and so on. And it's only if it gets really, really high that all roads ultimately in New Zealand now lead to the Supreme Court, which has ultimate overall say over everything. But the vast majority of these cases are dealt with by these separate areas of the law. Education law is not like this, so it isn't a branch of the law like employment law or family law or land law or whatever. It's a term that refers to all legal matters that arise in relation to the operation of educational institutions. So it's a very broad field of study and of action. Whether they know it or not, people working in educational institutions and educational contexts tramp through legal minefields on a pretty regular basis, often oblivious to the ramifications of their actions or inactions. So, sometimes they carry on being oblivious to it even while they're going through these minefields, even while they stand on mines, because sometimes the mines don't necessarily explode. So sometimes things that are sort of standard practice and regular procedures that take place in educational institutions are in fact not actually lawful, but it's not until their lawfulness or their unlawfulness is challenged by anybody that those issues actually surface. So the purpose of this course is to familiarize people working in the education system or studying education system or some other interaction with the education system to gain an understanding of what legal issues that are relevant to this do or may impact on them. More about that later, about this field of study. Just a brief comment now about how this course will be organised. This course is being run by Flexible Delivery. Some of us will have different amounts of familiarity with Flexible Delivery. For me, this is the first time I've sat in an office talking to a blank screen. I'm used to, I sometimes have lectures recorded, but I'm talking to real people. So this is kind of new for me too. So one of the things about it is that there are no face-to-face lectures and no set times where I'll be expecting that everybody will be there at the same time in the same even virtual place. So in the absence of face-to-face lectures, I'll be posting a series of brief presentations like this one. Research has shown that the optimal time for these sorts of presentations is about 6 to 9 minutes. I can't guarantee I'll stay within that band. I don't know whether you people are going to be have the average concentration span of people. Perhaps you can go for a little bit longer, but I won't lapse into my sort of default option of talking for 50 minutes or talking for an hour and 40 minutes or an hour and 50 minutes for a 2-hour class. I'll try to keep them brief and plentiful. So while this is just a straight voice to camera thing, this is the first time I've used this application. There's a few other little tricks that I can use that will enable me in future classes to be able to walk you through various things. Can you see my cursor on there? So I don't know whether you can see over to the side there. I can move the cursor. So what I've got on the screen here is actually just a picture in the background, and I'll put myself on top of it. But I could just move myself to the side a little bit and then take you somewhere online. So for example, when it comes to legal research, looking up stuff in the library, I'll be able to, rather than just describe it or give you a handout, I'll be able to kind of talk you through it and show you as I go. In addition to this one-way communication channel, there'll also be a forum through Learn that I'll set up that we can all participate in, and I would also like, if it's possible, to arrange a few times where we might all or most of us be online at the same time, perhaps using Adobe Connect, so we can communicate. That won't be necessary, and part of the point of this is that you can do this in your own time. We don't all have to be there, but we're not a massive class, and if we can find a time where we can be together, then that would be good. The other thing I just want to say at this early stage is in relation to assessment and the course content. Now, I've sort of put up this broad outline of the course, and part of this is saying, the assessment and the deadlines and so on. On the issue of assessment, I am required to set 3 pieces of assessment and to administer these in a way that maintains academic integrity and is equitable, so that no student is unfairly advantaged or disadvantaged in relation to any other. But beyond that, everything's negotiable. And I won't be making sort of final decisions on these matters until the formal enrolment period has ended. We know for certain who's in the group, and we can be flexible to figure out what sorts of assessment and what deadlines for assessment are ones that would be that would fit in with your programs as well. I mean, with three pieces of assessment, we want them roughly evenly spaced out. I'm not a stickler at master's level. I'm not a stickler for deadlines. You're busy people. Most of you probably in work as well. And as long as the work is done and other people haven't been forced to do work that's less than what they could have done by hitting this deadline, then I'm okay with that. On the issue of the course content, I've got a significant amount of material that I definitely want us to cover. And that we will cover. But beyond that, there's a lot of areas of this law related to education that we could kind of focus in and specialize in a little bit more. And so again, I'll be guided by you if you've got suggestions of different directions that you would like to pursue in a bit more depth. So that's it for now. As I say, the course kicks off next week, and I'll send another broadcast at that point. And thank you again for joining the course. I hope you find it interesting and stimulating. I'm certainly looking forward to it. A fresh, exciting, new adventure for me, and I hope it'll be stimulating for you too, bringing all of these important and interesting things together. Thank you.